Hey there, friends. We're live here for the NBPTS score release party. I'm going to have some people here in the Zoom room with me that signed up to be in live, and then we are streaming live out on YouTube and through Facebook also. So there are lots of people watching, just not necessarily in the room with me. But I especially want you to know that this celebration is for all of us, whether we saw fireworks yesterday on Score Release Day or not. Many of us just saw lots of great scores, and we're still working toward earning the fireworks. So we're celebrating our growth, and that is what the National Board process is about. I'm going to take about the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so here of today to just really kind of go over why you're different now. What is it that makes the National Board certification process so special, and what does it do to people like you and I who've been through it, who have obtained it, or are working toward it? Because oftentimes we cannot even put that into words for other people wanting to know, what is it you do? And then the floor is going to be those who are in the room to share their story of commitment to the process and fireworks if they did receive those. So let's just be reminded to kind of know how we're different from other teachers not going through the process. We want to remember that we now live by these core propositions. We are committed to the students that we teach and their learning. That is a huge commitment that we have to them. And we know the subjects that we teach, and we know how to teach those subjects to those students that we deeply know and understand. We are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning, and we do it with fidelity. We also systematically think about our practice like most teachers do not. And through that, we learn from experience. We become very diagnostic and reflective of what we do. And finally, we are members of learning communities. We aren't behind the four walls of our classroom. We're out working with our colleagues, working with our wider communities, working with our administrators and other teachers in our district. And those 5 core propositions for the National Board process have made you and given you the growth that you've had today into a teacher that you weren't before this process. And for that, I want to applaud you. I'm going to blow my horn a lot today, just because I want you to see that I am your biggest cheerleader. So good job for all of you becoming these 5 propositions. This is what we set out to do and be, and this is what we've done. So let's really think through life in general as a teacher. Being a teacher today is hard. It is probably the hardest profession in 2023, 2024, heading into that. And we have to really choose our hard on a daily basis. But I want to remind us and give us some contrast that everything's hard, right? So if you want someone to always tell you what to do, it's hard to wait for them to tell you what to do. But it's also hard to lead others. They're both hard. Are we going to be that National Board certified teacher that reaches out and takes the reins and leads and collaborates and advocates? Or are we going to be that teacher that waits for yet another program that does not impact our students in positive ways? They're both hard. So we're going to choose the hard route we want to go. Teaching's hard, but learning's also really hard. And as a teacher, it's hard to find time to learn. And that is another reason the National Board Certification process for you has been so valuable, because through your teaching, you've been learning. It's amazing, just amazing what's happened with you all. Being that sage on the stage, that front and center in your classroom with all the authority and all the knowledge, that's really hard. That takes a lot of planning. But also being the guide on the side, that's really hard, where you've got to give away some of your control, and you've got to add a lot of trust into the mix. Trust that the students are going to take that content and go deep with it, and that you'll be able to keep rigor, and that they'll be serious about it and want to learn in general. So either way, being that sage on the stage or being that guide on the side, they're both really hard. Choose your hard. Micromanaging everything down to your administrator is hard, but also trusting others, including your students, is really hard. Choose your hard. Ensuring equity is hard, and ensuring equality is hard. And I love to show this slide that I often teach from with teachers in my programs, that equality is what oftentimes we fight for, where everybody gets the same thing, the same way, at the same time. And if you'll notice the left side of the slide, equality isn't helping the third student. But if we think about it from the equity lens, which is just as hard to do, that's where we come into the differentiation that you've really learned through the national board process. Not everybody needs one box. Some need a full ladder, and they don't need a box at all. So equality in the classroom is hard, but equity is hard too. So which one are you going to fight for and push into your classroom? And finally, teaching students in poverty is really hard. It's emotionally hard. It's sometimes physically hard. It's sometimes socially defeating. But teaching kids of privilege is also hard. It's hard to have people constantly down your throats about what it is that you're teaching and how you're teaching it and when you're teaching it and to what depth you're teaching and what your expectations are. They're both hard. It's that old adage of the grass is not always greener on the other side of the street. And all of this matters today as we celebrate you all and the growth you've made, because I want you to understand that we're going to continue to grow. That's why we're together today, because you chose growth over being in that same cycle of waiting on someone else to tell you what to do. So because you've become a diagnostic and reflective thinker, I want to really talk about what might happen next with you all. Again, some of you, your next is continue the national board certification process and see those fireworks. And to all of you watching me and you're in that boat, I am giving you a very big round of applause for continuing that, because you deserve it and you are going to get those fireworks. For those of you who saw fireworks yesterday, or for those of you watching just because you always watch what I say here behind the desk and are working toward doing your maintenance of certification in just 4 more years, because you need to start it the year before it's due. You can start it 2 years before it's due. You need to remember these 3 things. Number 1, you always lead with needs. Always. Those would be your own needs as a teacher of students. Like, what is it that you need to learn and grow in? Needs of your students. What are their needs? Not just what's coming down the pike in your district, but when you look at them and you look at the data that is pushed out by whoever pushes data out for you, when you look at your formative and summative assessments, what do they truly need? Also colleagues. What do your colleagues need? You're a national board certified teacher. You're a leader. And so how can you mentor or collaborate or advocate in these next 4 years to support them and your wider community's needs? What is an issue going on in your community that you can help bring to light? I've seen teachers work around green schools for dealing with recycling and supporting the earth. I've seen teachers dealing with the bullying efforts and social emotional things in the community. I've seen them work on building wonderful advocacy campaigns around the arts and bringing arts councils and things like that together, or just developing mental health programs in their schools that they don't currently have. How can you move outside of that wider community for supporting others? Second thing I want you to remember between now and the time you are starting your maintenance of certification renewal process is you need to be growing in both content and pedagogy, however you say it. It's different in the different regions of the country. You aren't just going to grow in the way you present curriculum out and content out to students, but also in the content. And oftentimes we are now seeing our districts provide more training in the how, in the vehicles of the way they want you to push things out. That would be more pedagogical, the container. Then they are pushing out content related workshops, webinars, things like that for you. So I want you to really understand that the content that we want students to is what we want students to know and be able to do. So if you were to put a T-chart down, what do you want your kids to know? That is your content in your subject area. Some of you are generalists, so you want them to know a lot of stuff. And then what do you want them to be able to do? That's kind of the action, the verbs are behind that. That matches that content. And then the pedagogy is how do you then take the know and be able to do and push it out to them? What are the strategies that you use? So make sure as you're growing in the future that you're growing in both of these areas. And if you are going to be outside of your certification area, which means if you just certified in middle childhood generalists, let's say, that means somewhere between 2nd and 6th grade, but now you're going to be teaching 8th grade, you still have to stay connected and learn inside of the content for that MC Gen, that 2nd through 6th grade. So don't abort that. Make sure you're signing up for workshops, staying fresh and understanding that. Because when it comes to maintenance of certification, your content PGE must be in the area that you certified initially. All right. And then finally, it is always best practice to reread your NBPTS standards. That should say standards. I was typing this quickly. Annually. So at least once a year, reread through your standards and kind of get a measure for yourself of, hey, how am I doing? You've pretty much become those standards by going through the national board process and then going through the renewal maintenance process. But it's always a good idea to freshen up, because that's really what you're proving, is that you are maintaining those 5 core propositions that we opened up with, and that you are those standards for the maintenance of certification. So that's what's happening next for each one of you. And so with that being said, I am pushing as a leader, a teacher leader of education in the nation, for us to really look into how well we push student ownership and student-centered classrooms inside of what we do on a daily basis. You know, apathy is a real thing That's kind of a buzzword right now inside of education. We're all talking about student apathy, motivation to learn. These two cartoons really resonated with me. These two little boys saying, I don't know what apathy means either, and I could care less. Well, right. I mean, they don't understand that they're not motivated oftentimes because the way students are learning and being and doing today is very different than the way many of us on this live meeting have learned and done and been. So we're trying to push them into an apathetic box that they don't even know exists, nor do they even understand what it is if we're trying to ask them to be motivated. And second to that, the second cartoon, why don't they ever call off school for lack of interest? That's quite funny to me because in the business world, if they're trying to host a meeting or a webinar on something and they don't have enough interest in it, they just call it off. They don't have it. It would be like that with our teacher conferences. If not enough people signed up for the conference, they would cancel it. But we don't do that in school, right? So here they are thinking, we'll have this apathy and we'll get school canceled. Let's think about school in the past here. The top picture to the left, notice how different our classrooms were in the past. And this really could have been me when I went to school. And I'm just 53 years old, so I don't really find myself to be that old. But this is the way I went to school. This is how I learned, and I'm still teaching. But I'm teaching more today, currently, like this bottom picture to the right. Students are looking at each other, having an environment set for engagement and discussion. And so it's me less in the front of the room and me more circulating amongst them and helping them to dive deep in learning. Now, this is not what every current classroom looks like. I understand that. And I understand that some teachers will not choose the hard of being more student-centered, more God on the side. They want to be more sage on the stage. But I'm encouraging you to really look into that. If you're more if you're more sage on the stage, you micromanage, everything's controlled by you, really dive into that as a growth opportunity for you in the future, because it's so much fun to teach when there's shared ownership in the classroom. It's just fun. If you saw my students, I put their voices out on a video about score release. It's in our Facebook groups and probably out on my Facebook business page. You can hear me in their voices. And that's the whole point. We share our thinking, and they are becoming who I am. This is what I believe the future may look like. We already have Chromebooks in most of our classrooms, right? We have big owl cameras in our classrooms. We have the computer screens all over the place. I see students utilizing tablets and computers, and right now many of us are trying to ward off and fight cell phones in the classroom, especially if we teach older kids. And I'm trying to think in my mind, how could we teach them to use those to their advantage in the classroom? I'm thinking about the Edisons and the Alexander Graham Bells and all of our wonderful inventors that came before us that were self-taught. They weren't taught in school classrooms only what the teacher wanted them to know. And so these teachers have the world, these students have the world at their fingertips if we, along with our districts, are allowed to allow them some choice and some ownership and rigor. Students really participating in utilizing tools that we have not had them utilize before. But we first have to have the comfort with this. We have to be comfortable with allowing them to take time to learn deeply and rigorously skills. in our classrooms, whether it be math, language, social studies, history, English, it doesn't matter. The kids are not learning today like they used to. And really, neither are we. I think all of you that are in my orbit, if I would have asked you, let's just say 7 years ago, whether you would take a class that is online by yourself with the teacher instructing you through video and then meeting every other week for an hour live, would you have done that? You would have probably said, no, I mean, I don't do that. I need to be in a classroom. I need to be butt in the seat. Somebody needs to talk to me and guide me and tell me what to do and make decisions for me. But not anymore. Teachers are outgrowing that. Teachers are recognizing that it's fun to do self-study. Self-study is huge for the National Board renewal process, maintenance of certification. You are going to self-study a lot. And I'm going to show you how I'm self-studying in just a minute. But first, let's reevaluate you. Now, let's think about this on a scale of 0 to 5, thinking about how our classrooms will change over time. If you give yourself a 0, it would be like you have no knowledge or understanding of your students' needs or preferences. You just kind of teach the way you teach, you do what you do, you take your standards like you've always done, and you really don't know like what it would take to get them to learn in your classroom and be eager to learn. 1 would be very little knowledge, 2 would be limited knowledge, 3 would be evolving knowledge, 4 is you're aware and you're beginning to partner with them, and a 5 is you're highly aware and you're really transitioning your instruction to meet their needs and preferences. You're probably in a 4 and a 5 seeing very little apathy in your students. You're seeing students be more curious, ask more questions, help you realign the learning environment to something that feels right for them and the way they want to learn and be. You're having dialogue with your administrators about what their true needs are, and you aren't just accepting the fact that students should be in rows and you should have all the knowledge, and you are just feeding them knowledge, testing them, they forget it and get new knowledge the next week. You're really recognizing that you want to show them how this knowledge is transferred. So with that being said, think about rating yourself on each one of these 5 things. Number 1, where are you with knowing how your students transfer knowledge? You are providing the framework of knowledge. You know what they need to know in your class. But to truly learn it and know it, they have to transfer it. I'll give you an example. In my classroom, in my school, 2nd and 3rd graders really learn about money, and they learn about counting change and counting back change. So we play store and things in the classroom, but if they are truly transferring this knowledge, they're going to transfer it where? They're going to transfer it when they use money out in the world with their parents. They're going to transfer it when they're able to write a story themselves about, Tracy bought a lollipop that cost 25 cents with $1, and she got how much ever change back. So Tracy is going to be able to transfer that knowledge. So where are you when you think about how well your students are able to transfer that? And have you had just discussion with them about that? I even have discussions like that with my kids in 5K in 1st grade. So where are you with knowing how your students use study skills or memorization? True story. I just had parent-teacher conferences with my 3rd grade parents, and I was saying to them, now these parents are young. They were still born in the 1900s, half of them. Half of these parents were born in the 2000s, so they don't even know what the 1900s were. And I say that because I was talking about the analog clock, and I was saying there's so much value in the analog clock and a student learning it. And so most of the parents born in 2000s said, what is that? They didn't even know what an analog clock was. The parents born in the 1900s asked me, do they still make those? Now, I had to scratch my head on that because that's when I really felt old. But I said to them, all right, they do still make them, yes, and they are still very important. And I asked them, what did you learn from an analog clock? Why do you think it's important? Before I told them, and they started saying, well, I learned quarters, like I say quarter after quarter till, I learned things like that, and it's very important. And I also learned, I learned how to get places on time. That's amazing. Yeah, I did. I learned how to get places on time. So then I asked the parents of the preschool students who definitely do not know anything about the 1900s, some of them. And I asked them, how do they get places on time? How do they know? And so they told me they ask the Google Maps or Siri how long it takes to get to, let's say, the fairgrounds. And then they look at it and then they say, okay, so it takes 1 hour and 20 minutes to get to the fairgrounds. And right now it's a certain time, and they just add it up. So do you see how I am so set on that analog clock? I'm set on ABC order. When I ask them, what is it about ABC order? When do you use it? And they're like, we don't use ABC order. It's true. So I asked them, what do you memorize? Again, I'm talking to parents, not students. What do you memorize? And the parents are telling me nothing. Well, why? Because it's all in my phone. I use my phone to say the notes. So I give you these examples when it comes to using study skills or memorization, because sometimes it may look like apathy, but it's really just somebody stuck in the 1900s and somebody else in the 2000s. And I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. So I wanted you to know that it might just be asking them how they study today. They may study by talking to Siri, and then we become judgmental over that. Don't talk to Siri. Siri shouldn't know it all. But that is what they're doing. So we have to meet them there. We're in a fight for our lives with AI. What if we just embrace AI? AI is a thought. It's either that we love it or we hate it. Some of us are in the middle of it, but AI is not going anywhere. Where are you with knowing how your students believe learning content and skills connects to their current and future lives? What do you know? What have you had that talk with them? Where are you with knowing how your students prefer to learn and what things they want to learn about? And then where are you with knowing how your students see technology fitting into learning, school, and life? So if you really just took some time to have some dialogue with them, have some dialogue with their parents about certain things that you're constantly frustrated over, that's wonderful growth. That's growth toward being more student-centered and having more student agency and ownership in your classroom. And for that, you will be so happy because teaching will definitely be more joyful, I promise. So for me, I'm really learning big. I have most recently connected with Jack Canfield. This is Jack and I together at his home. And in his office here, I'm with all of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. So I'm really working with Jack around success principles and how those success principles can be pushed into the school, into our classrooms, and into the content we already teach, and not another program, not another thing that you have to do, but a way that we all can feel successful, students, teachers, parents, and move forward in this new age of teaching and learning, because we are no longer in the age of desks and rows with that sage on the stage, unfortunately. And the National Board teaches us that we're so much more than that. So I am so incredibly happy to be growing big here around this. And I wanted to share the good news with you that our time together does not have to end if you are finished and you saw your fireworks. You can continue your journey with me and keep growing big personally and professionally. Have a little teacher therapy time. We're going to have book club meetings working with things like Sean Acor's Happiness Advantage and Oprah's Path Made Clear and Jack Canfield's Success Principles, and really trying to work as teachers to define our voice so that our voice is heard by those people in the country that are going to be making decisions that affect us and the kids that we teach. And their needs are going to come first instead of programs and initiatives and mandates that do not make sense for us. I'm looking to develop teacher leaders, and I'm looking to engage teachers in many workshops and courses with content and pedagogy over at my new endeavor called the Teacher Buzz. So after this is over, you're going to see down in the comment section, wherever you're watching this at, you're going to see a link for getting in on the waiting list to come into the Teacher Buzz. I'm going to do a masterclass. It just came to me and I thought, oh, it'd be so much fun if we could all develop our visions and our goals for the future in December 27th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just be really fun to try to dive right into this and see if we can go ahead and set some goals and get a path made clear for us for at least this year. And all of you are welcome and favored to be in that. It's completely free. You're just going to come right over to that masterclass. And the Teacher Buzz is going to be a community-based website, but it's going to be so much fun. And I would love, love, love to have all of you over there with me. Anyway, I'm going to end my part with my pom-pom, yeah, and my horn, because I want you to know I'm so proud of you. So proud of you for everything, for your fireworks, for your growth. It's been absolutely amazing to work with you. It's so sad to say goodbye. I really had to figure out a way not to have to always say goodbye every year and wait 4 more years to see you again. So I've got some people in the room, and I'm going to open it up to any of you here in the room that may want to make remarks about the way you've grown big or any questions you have about the future. It doesn't matter. Or say nothing at all. It's up to you. Anybody in the room? There's Tori on the screen.
Hi.
Hi, Tori.
How's it going?
It's good. You're not chasing your kids. I wanted to see your little ones.
Right over there.
There they are.
There's
Oh,
Sasha. Everett, say hi.
hi, Everett.
There's
There
Everett.
they are.
And then I have one more coming now. Last
Yay.
one.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. And I was it's so funny. I had like insane self-doubt like 5 minutes before the release, and then was like pleasantly surprised by the scores. And yeah, just really grateful to be in a state that values it. I know North Carolina really values it as well, but yeah, and excited to like just take on like new leadership opportunities in at my school that will, essentially be given to me because I'm nationally board certified now. So
that's right. That's awesome. And you're in California.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give a shout out to California. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I switched from like a charter to a district school to LAUSD, and they really value it and have a lot of like support programs and whatnot. I decided to do yours instead of the LAUSD one. But now that I am certified, they have a nice network, so I'm excited for that.
Yay. Good job. So good. Oh, and by
Thanks.
the way, she did this with the little ones running around. I just want if Tori can do it, you all can do it. Yes. It's awesome. Thank you for sharing, Tori. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. All right. I want to say to all of you on here, if you have not taken the dive into the national board, try it. It's worth it. I promise you. It is absolutely worth it. For those of you who don't have a clue who I am, you can get everything you need to know about me over at tracybryantstuckey.com. And a reminder that I do this for my mother's memory. My mother passed away of breast cancer before she was able to do national board certification. And besides go to Alaska, this was the only thing on her bucket list she didn't get to accomplish. So every time one of you comes across that finish line and earns your fireworks and your certification, it's a win for me and for my mother. So I love, love, love this work I do. I hope that you all have a wonderful holiday season, and I appreciate so much you being a part of this network that we've created. Have a great, great, great holiday season. Bye now.